Today is a sad, sad, sad day. So, let me get back to the beginning here. This morning, I actually had to go to the transplant hospital for my wife's kidney transplant, and I had to get a bunch of blood drawn and tests done and things like that. Um, 19 bottles of blood drawn from me today for testing. And while I was sitting in the waiting room between appointments and things, I was looking through the current events and the current news of the automotive industry. And I've ran into this article from SEMA that actually said Ford and Honda has officially pulled out of this year's SEMA show. Okay, so when it comes to Honda at SEMA, it's no offense to you Honda guys, but it was a blip on the map. It wasn't even that big. So whatever. It was like when Hyundai left SEMA. It was such a little tiny spot on the floor that nobody really cared. But Ford is basically everywhere in SEMA. If you've never been to SEMA and you've decided to go to SEMA, in the past 10 years, you'd have noticed that it's essentially a Ford auto show versus an aftermarket SEMA car show, or trade show. Because out front, when you're walking in, the whole front of SEMA, that whole parking lot in front of a Las Vegas convention center, is what they call Ford out front. So this is where Ford will have ride-alongs with Ken Block, with Von Gittin Jr. in their drift Mustangs. You would have, the Raptors jumping on their platforms. I think last year they had a sand pit where they were showing off the articulation of the new Bronco and how you can disconnect the sway bars electronically from inside the truck, and doing um, their trail turn assist where it locks the inside wheel and it just turns on a real tight radius. Things like that. Like basically the whole front of SEMA is Ford. And then you walk in and Central Hall, which is I don't want to say this without offending everybody, but Central Hall is the main hall when it comes to SEMA show. And in the dead center of Central Hall, Ford pretty much has the biggest footprint next to Chevy. Ford is also one of the only manufacturers that was left bringing out tuner modified vehicles every year. You know, companies like Kia, Chevy is a big one. A lot of these companies started doing their own. Well, I guess Kia not so much, but Chevy was the big one where they started doing their builds within in-house. Honda started doing that too as well. And honestly, as an aftermarket car designer, tuner, slash whatever you want to call, what I do, I thought that was going very against what SEMA was all about. SEMA was all about the aftermarket of things. It wasn't about how OEMs build cars. If you wanted to see OEM built cars, you go to the auto show. You go to Detroit, you go to Chicago, you don't go to Las Vegas for the SEMA show. And with that spirit in mind, Ford always kept true to that. They always brought in a bunch of different designers and tuners and try to basically insert the tuning DNA into their vehicles every year. And that's why it had one of the most amount of people always at their booth, no matter what. Like, if they had a press event, usually their press events are on Tuesday mornings. It was filled shoulder to shoulder. And it's really disappointing that Ford has decided to pull out of SEMA because it's such a huge part. And I feel like they're the only manufacturers that really understood what SEMA was all about. Other manufacturers just, they took it as just another auto show. They took it as, oh, this is somewhere we can show off our new Corvette C8 Z06. Cool that I got to see it, but I mean, it would have been better if there was a a company or a tuner or a designer that put their own spin on it. Twin turbo that Z06, put some nice wide body on it. Things like that. It's all about developing aftermarket for the vehicles, and the focus should be on that, not, hey, here's a brand new car, come look at it at SEMA. It's like, hey, we don't care. This is an aftermarket trade show where we're all about developing aftermarket parts for the cars. So how about you guys get in the program and figure that out? Chevy used to do that. Chevy used to do the whole program where they would have tuners build their vehicles, but they've changed over the years and decided to do all OEM built, OEM designed cars only, and it's kind of left a lot to be desired at that point. Again, this is really sad news. I'm gonna show you the article right now. Kind of show you what's going on. Um, yeah, this sucks. Okay, so those of you who don't know who I am or what I do is I've been building and designing SEMA cars for manufacturers since 2014. I've worked with Hyundai before. I've worked with Toyo tires, Anki wheels, and last few years I've been really, really in with Ford and have been doing a lot of things for them. And throughout the years, while working with different manufacturers, I've really, really grown fond of how Ford does their things. If you couldn't tell from earlier on in this video, they were one of the few OE manufacturers that were really, really focused on growing the aftermarket community for their cars and their trucks. So, with that said, when I saw this article, I thought, "Oh man, this really sucks." So, look at the title of the article. Industry anticipation for the 2022 SEMA show ramps up as numerous OEMs prepare for increased presence. Sounds great when the title comes out. But if you read further, right here, due to change in corporate strategy, Ford and Honda will not be displaying at the 2022 Auto Show. We appreciate their longtime support, and while many of us are going to miss their participation at this year's show, we are excited to see the show take on a new look in Central Hall. As I said, Ford had a huge footprint in the Central Hall. Now that they're gone, Chevy is probably going to be taking over most of the footprint, and unfortunately display more of their OE built, OE designed cars and trucks, which, again, like, the problem with these OE builds that Chevy does, or Honda used to do, or even, like, I believe Lexus also does well, is the parts that go on these cars most of the time don't come into the aftermarket scene. It's literally a show car, one-off car they built for the SEMA show, and that's it. Like, there's no parts development, there's no actual aftermarket involved within it after the SEMA show's over. It's literally just a show car they built. Whereas with Ford, as as a builder for Ford, I know for a fact they really focus on aftermarket parts development. So I don't know, I don't even know if I'm supposed to share this with you, but I have to write a quarterly report every time I build a car for them, for Ford. And in the quarterly report, they asked basically what I have developed for that particular vehicle or that particular market that I built the car for that year. And I have to actually really push that, because that is one of the biggest focus that Ford has, is growing the aftermarket through SEMA, making sure the tuner aftermarket, the off-road aftermarket, the people that are really enthusiastic about their cars get the support they need, they get the parts they need, get the manufacturers behind their OE vehicles that they need. This is why I really, really love working with Ford. I've never seen that in any other OE environment. I mean, not to really talk crap about other companies, but when I worked with Hyundai, they could really care less what comes out into the aftermarket. All they really cared about was having a flashy car or a flashy project that brought in reporters that was going to write an article for them at SEMA, so that hopefully in the future they will sell one more car. They really could care less if I was bringing out a turbo kit for a Genesis Coupe or a wide body kit for a Veloster Turbo. They didn't care. That wasn't their focus. Like, as much as you think these OE companies care about what you do with your car on some of these like advertisements, they really don't care. But Ford was different. And this is why this is a very, very impacting news, especially with the experience that I've had with different type of manufacturers that I've worked in the past. This is really sad. This is one company that understood enthusiasts really were very, very important part of selling their vehicles. So, with that said, thank you, Ford, for all those years of supporting the enthusiasts. Hopefully, you guys do come back soon. Hopefully next year. And yeah, there's a lot of speculations on why Ford pulled out. They're talking about how they can't meet the current demand of orders because of lack of chip shortage and things like that. And they also reported a huge loss because of that too. So I guess in a financial sense, it doesn't really make sense to be putting money into a show like this year. But hopefully, that gets turned around, and then we can all go back to having Ford being one of the major presence at SEMA, and really pushing for the aftermarket to grow for the enthusiasts. All right, well, that's about it for me today. That's about my rant, I guess. My sadness of Ford discontinuing their showing at SEMA, and I mean, I hope I hope other companies, maybe Chevy will go back to the whole, hiring tuners and designers to really push the aftermarket forward, instead of just trying to show off their brand new cars and trucks. Um, if anybody from Chevy is watching, yeah, please note that because you guys have lost your way. You guys seriously have lost your way. And any other company, Lexus, I think Audi is back. They were back a couple of years ago, and honestly, your footprint is way too tiny to matter right now. Hopefully, you guys spend a little bit more at SEMA, and yeah, let's. I really hope this isn't a downfall of SEMA. I really hope this is going to be a good opportunity for other manufacturers to step up and kind of carry the torch that Ford has been carrying for quite a few years now. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe. Woo, okay. Let me do that again. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the next one.